This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
This week's episode is brought to you by the number 522 and the letters M, M, and P.
And welcome to the 522nd episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast. Tonight we discuss making good intercharacter conflicts in your tabletop role-playing games. But first, my name is Jerry.
Chris.
And I am Old Man Logan.
And this is apparently Sesame Street now.
Yay!
Sunny days, taking those.
There's a way.
Is it Dancing Those Clouds Away?
On my way.
I don't remember because I haven't watched it in 300 years.
Won't you tell me how to get to Misdirected Mark Street?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Bad. So let's do some announcements real quick. First off, Phil's not here again because he's still on vacation. We record these things in batches. So, it's the second episode that we're recording in a week when he's not here.
Batches? We don't need no stinking batches.
I think we do.
Yeah, we do actually.
Yeah, okay.
It's working out really well
Yeah,
for
I
giving
know.
us time off.
I know.
Yes.
It's great. Second thing, you could be a patron for our Patreon and patronize us. We'd appreciate that. We looked it up last week. We had the definition last
Yes,
time.
we love
so-
being patronized.
Yeah, we do. You can get the after show, the Bamboo Lounge, for the lowest entry cost. For a little bit more money, you can get all of our Children of the Shroud stuff. So, like behind the screen and our character sheets. And maybe we'll even start releasing some of the play summaries. I think Jerry's been writing notes very well.
Thank you. I
Haven't you?
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Jerry's
I
good
have
at
been.
taking
I try.
notes.
I read them, so
Yeah.
we can give you those things too, so you can catch up if you're behind. Although there's only like 3 stories out there right now, so it's not that hard to catch up. It's only about like 6 hours of content, and they're edited.
Yes.
All right. And don't suck.
Yeah,
Please.
don't suck.
Please don't suck.
We can't do it without Phil, right?
Workshop,
Just imagine
pretend
that-
I'm Phil.
Yeah,
Workshop.
yeah. Just imagine if Phil said something like, oh, Bob and Chris are fighting with each other, but they're not really fighting with each other. Oh, it's great. Workshop. Don't suck.
Workshop. People are arguing again. Workshop.
Workshop.
It's something like that, everybody. Anyways,
All right. There are times in tabletop role-playing games that a little conflict or stress between characters can lead to good role-playing. Minor distrust, misunderstandings, competition, and sometimes interfering with each other's plots can all be fun, but only if they're handled properly.
now we're not talking about direct PvP here. That's not what this is
No.
about.
No.
Characters actively attacking and deliberately foiling each other's plans can become both frustrating and detrimental to party cohesion. Nobody wants that.
Nope. Well, some people do, but
I guess some people do, but in the worst cases, those PvP conflicts can spill from character conflicts into player conflicts,
oh yeah.
and that's never good for the game. I don't think anyway.
I don't think it is either.
No.
See your Amber campaign.
Scars, man. Scars. So look, how do we make for good character conflicts without disrupting the story and the adventure or spilling into PvP?
Well, in both of our Cortex Prime games, Ox and Children of the Shroud, the players have worked with the GM, Phil in this case, to create good and fun intercharacter conflicts that don't disrupt the game.
So we use safety tools and out-of-character discussions to make this stuff work. That is very important for us.
Very important.
I often check in with Bob before I start saying something very, very uncouth, I suppose is the best place to put that word.
Yeah. All right, but before we get deeper into this discussion, it's time for some definitions. We got a definition panda here.
We do.
Behold, you are in the presence of Definition Panda.
Definition 1 is character. This is from Webster's Dictionary. The first one is a representation of an individual personality in a fiction or dramatic work. Number 2 is the personality or part which an actor recreates. For our purposes, this is going to be the representation of a player in the game.
Now, number 2 is player, and Webster defines that as one that plays, such as a person who plays a game, or an actor. And this would be the people playing in our tabletop role-playing game, including the GM. The GM is a player.
Makes sense.
And finally, we have conflict, defined by Webster's as competitive or opposing action of incompatibles or the opposition of persons or forces that gives rise to the dramatic action in a drama or fiction. So this can be anything from a disagreement or debate to outright fighting.
Now, when done right, these friendly conflicts can focus on non-combat and are more about role-playing opportunities. However, these sorts of things always have to be done with the consent of the players involved.
I agree
Yes.
wholeheartedly. Yes. Now, fam. All right, fam, let's get some examples in there, fam. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. In Aux, which is our Cortex Prime Geniuses in Space game, there have been several running conflicts. The first is between Chris's character Tam and Jerry's character Gree.
My character Tam is very by the book. I need to focus on the rules and patterns. When they get outside of that, it drives me up a wall.
Agrees the opposite. He's an impulsive bioscientist who likes to apply new ideas before fully testing them.
Often by testing them on an injured Tam.
Would you please take that poly away from my face? I am not breathing in that spore. Anyways, the number of side effects and unexpected secondary complications that have occurred has led to Tam openly expressing his distrust of Gree many times. Many, many times.
Yes.
And of course, criticizing Gree's process, which I do fairly often. Not as much these days, but in those 10 to 18 game sessions, those sessions, not so much. I was not
it's
a
getting
Gree
better.
fan.
Yeah.
Getting better.
It works well.
So while this can sometimes interfere with the party accomplishing goals quickly and can lead to arguments between the characters, it's still kept light and fun between the players.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's because everybody agreed to make it a discussion, not an actual fight. Whenever I'm being criticized by Tam, I realize it's character to character, not Chris criticizing me, and we react accordingly.
What this added to the game was more chances for the characters to have conversations and work on evolving their personalities, which has been very good in our Aux game.
Now, in Children of the Shroud, you'll hear that there was a complication from a pair of ones rolled during a test. So, with the player's permission, the GM took both of those and created a conflict.
This resulted in a conflict between Chris's character Silas and my character Gunny.
A discussion they were having turned into an argument that both players turned into a heated conflict.
And then both these characters worked at resolving that conflict in character while still using that argument to create dramatic tension. There was, I think I swore at Gunny. I think I said fuck off.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
Yep.
So what this did is this added a chance for the characters to discuss their backstories more as reasons for their conflict, but also give the GM more hooks for the ongoing adventure.
So how do we make this happen at the table?
Okay, well, how do we do that? I don't know. Jerry, tell me.
Well, first, you have to make sure that all parties are comfortable with intercharacter conflict. Not all people are.
That makes sense.
Yes, you need to look for informed, enthusiastic consent.
You know, I want to talk about this for a second.
Yes.
Now, this wasn't a player conflict thing, but I was playtesting with Jerry last night
Mm-hmm.
as of this recording. Todd Crapper's new role-playing game, Killshot Syndicate, which is supposed to be GM-less and about crime families.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about the kind of crimes that we wanted to commit, and it came up that we were going to be in the gambling rings and whatnot. But I was like, is that it? Like, are we going to lean on families because we're a crime family, right? Like, one of the ways that you get leverage on people is by leaning on them for any number of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Ange was playing that game, and she said she's okay with it, but it wasn't really like her wheelhouse and this, that, and the other thing. Like, she wouldn't mind it. I'm like, well, that's not informed, enthusiastic consent. So let's not do that.
Yep.
Like, it was my idea, but like, I wasn't married to it. So I was like, we don't need to do that.
Exactly.
If you have enthusiastic consent all the way around, then everybody's clearly on board, and I feel like it's going to work better. It's going to flow better. If you've got one or more people that are like, it's like, I'll do it, but
I don't even want that
as
in
soon
the
as you
game.
start waffling, it's like, try and see if you can find something else that makes everybody go, yeah.
Yeah. Because it'll just make for a better game, I think, in the long run. Like,
absolutely.
if you're the only person that's excited about that, there are other players at the table. And believe me, if you want the game to be really good, you need the other players to also be on the same page as you and at the same level of excitement as you are.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Anyways, where were we? We were like, oh, yeah. So if you, as a player, are on board, you need to give that enthusiastic consent, which we just talked about how that didn't get given.
So, for example, if one of the players is like, well, what if we did this?
Definitely, man. That would be fun.
Well, there's some enthusiastic consent right there.
Make sure people know that you're enthusiastic about it. Even if you are, say something about it. Don't just sit there and go, yeah, okay, go, yeah, let's do that. That immediately tells everybody else you're on board. The next thing you want to do is look for ways to incorporate the conflicts into the game as a role-playing endeavor.
Man, the number of times that I've minorly insulted Gree and sometimes Alfarum lately about his alternate way of the way he likes to get things done, which, like, Alfarum in that Aux game is essentially Tam's brother, even though one of them is a sentient, standing, walking sloth, and the other one is a moti, which is essentially a human being.
Yeah.
But we were both genetically created by our the same kind of people, so we're like distant cousins.
Yeah.
And they fight like distant cousins.
We do fight
It's
like
wonderful.
distant cousins.
You have to understand that distrust has to be something that doesn't actually lead to the group missing their goals. Intercharacter conversations that can lead to reveals, character growth, backstory hooks are always better than simple arguments.
Yeah, when a situation arises that leans on the conflict, both players and even other bystanders should use that as an opportunity to role play.
The number of times that Tam has commented to Gree about, I don't think that's a good idea, or I'm not sure you want to test it that way. And then Bob as Alfarum jumps in with another comment, even though he's not even part of the argument, but comments on things that have happened in the past, or maybe comes up with a better suggestion. Like, maybe we should practice this out where it's safe, or keep Gree from practicing it on himself, one of the two. But even though the conflicts between Tam and Gree, Alfarum as a bystander gets a chance to interact and converse as well. Get involved and everybody will have more fun with it.
And we actually make that way easier in Aux because we're all on connected comms with each other.
Yeah.
Unless somebody explicitly says, for this moment, I'm going to turn my comm off for X reason. Normally, somebody saying something, doesn't matter where they are, they can hear the conversation that's going on. And then it's very easy for us to jump in and be like, yeah, Gree, you said that last time. Here's me rolling my eyes.
It is hilarious.
And the flip side of that is sometimes when it does sound like something that might just be personal, somebody else will ask something like, is that on comms for everybody? And it says, yeah, well, then I'm going to say this, or no, it's not. Okay, then I'll hold off on that. So that we still make sure that everybody's having fun, but it stays within the story. When you have a question, ask questions. Communication's key. The next thing you need to do is once you've got this conflict in the game, always look for ways to mend that conflict.
Yeah, so when creating and playing intercharacter conflicts, you need to make certain that the situation is never moving towards breaking the party up. Or if it is, you've talked about it already. Like, that is the higher stakes play. All right, do we want to take this story to its a very dark conclusion where like we stop being friends for a period of time and then have to like come back together at some point? Or do we want to just mend this thing now or by the end of the session? And there's been times when Phil's been like, it's fine if you guys are going to fight with each other as long as you guys find a way to get back together. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. Like, I don't want the game to like fall apart because of this.
Right.
Because that's not my intent. My intent is to create drama because a lot of our games have started to play out like those CW dramas in a lot of ways. Like even the sci-fi stuff. If you've ever watched a sci-fi show that goes on long enough, you start getting that interpersonal drama stuff.
Yeah.
It's just been going on for too long.
The next thing, though, is that everybody involved should use discussion and safety tools constantly to keep it fun for everyone. Chris mentioned that all the time. He says, are you okay with this before he jumps into something? And that makes a big difference because then everybody feels good about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you wanted to put the star on the ship.
Yeah, I wanted to create or capture a protostar and use it for propulsion, use it for energy production on the ship.
And Tam was devotedly against it because it's like, you're going to put a star in our friend because Aux is a character.
Yeah, Aux is a sentient ship, so.
Chris thought it was cool. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't care. You want to put a star on the ship, it's fine with me. I don't care.
Alpha's whole mindset was, look, I've got it figured out so that it's safe. Like, I'm not going to blow up Aux. I figured that part out.
Yeah, I get you.
Because I'm smart.
You are.
But we found a different way.
In Alpha's defense, Alpha's experiments tend to work positively much more often than Gree's do.
Which is part of the fun of the intercharacter conflicts in this crew.
Yeah,
Yes.
man. It was weird too because that's the first time that Alpha did something that Tam was like, I don't know that that's a good idea. Every other time I was all on board with it.
Yeah.
That one was like, you're gonna blow up our friend.
Which again was interesting because with Gree's track record, you're like, oh no, you're hesitant. But with mine, all of a sudden you started questioning me, and it's like, dude, I'm good at this. Like,
is this the first time you decided to do
was-
something that was going to threaten somebody that actually mattered to us?
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It had way higher stakes,
Yep.
and you rightfully called me on it, which was a great scene.
That scene actually lasted, I think, for 3 adventures.
Three sessions.
three
we had that
sessions.
discussion.
Yep. And it was funny every time.
All of this is to say that there's a danger that a bad intercharacter conflict can turn into PvP or bog down the plot and just break everything.
Yeah, absolutely. This kind of stuff, I actually like that it exists in our games now, and we can play with these kind of things because it's a fine line to walk for a lot of people. There is a lot of pitfalls that can come with playing like these kind of games with these kind of moments in them.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the idea that I like to play games and facilitate games where I am often doing things that you're not supposed to do in role-playing games because it challenges me. It's a thing that's exciting for me. I think this actually sits in that space of like, this is a high risk, high reward situation
Yeah.
as a game master and a bunch of players.
Mhm.
So all the things that we've talked about before will help you pull it off. Like, this is why safety tools are important. This is why pause and rewind and things like that are important. This is why checking in is really important, because you can have this kind of play. And that's why after a scene like that, I often am like, are you okay with what just happened? And people say it to me too sometimes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can do these things by following some of the rules that we've kind of laid down here.
Now remember, as a GM and as a player, if everybody's having fun with it, even if this kind of conflict temporarily derails a story a little bit or slows it down to a slower pace, that's okay as long as everybody's having fun. Sometimes these asides, as long as everybody's on board, can make for a great game session, even if there's not a lot of dice being tossed.
Yeah, and when a conflict has run its course, find a reason to end the conflict in an amicable way. Now, what that means is a conflict has started. There is some building tension that goes along with that conflict. Hopefully, you have found some point of release to that tension.
And even if you have to stop, pause the game briefly and be like, all right, you know what? I'm not 100% seeing how to close this one out.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
how do you think we're going to put this to bed and get back on each other's good terms?
Yeah, or how are we going to move this thing into a different space?
Yeah.
That actually happened during Ox. The end of that thing was we got to a point where Tam and Alpha weren't in the same headspace for, was this a safe or unsafe situation, until Alpha took extra safety precautions and changed his plans. They talked to Ox about how Ox felt about it, and Tam got to resolve it. They talked about what it was going to take to come to an end of this conflict one way or the other. And it was an active choice by the players and the GM. And that's why it worked.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
There was
Yep.
the other one that came after that too, where I failed a roll, and then Alpha didn't trust me, and I hadn't been wrong once in like
Yep.
20 sessions.
Yes.
That one was a bumpy one because I wasn't not trusting Tam. I was not trusting the equipment, but it felt to Tam, very rightly so, that I was not trusting Tam. And that created the whole thing. And it took us a while to scrape the edges off of that one.
Mm-hmm.
But we finally figured out how to close that one down and like, okay, here we go. And we put that to bed safely and cleanly. But it was fun.
Those were fun moments in the game.
Closing out the conflict in an amicable way can often be done consciously as a series of goals that the players want their characters to achieve.
Mm-hmm. And it just helps by talking about that.
Yes, conversation.
If you want a good example from our Children of the Shroud game,
Yeah.
when you were trying to calm me down, there were a couple of things that happened there. One of them was you were going to try to talk me down, but you hadn't gotten to the point of what was actually wrong with me.
Yes.
I was angry, but I was angry because Morris got killed, or Morris died.
Yes.
And in my opinion, got killed.
Yes.
And he did.
Yeah.
So once you found that out, it lets you make a roll to take it to the next step.
Yeah. And in narrative terms, I understood better what you were angry about,
Mm-hmm.
so I could make my counter argument to calm you in a way that made more sense.
Yeah, it made the story beat feel better.
Yes.
Is I guess the best way to put it. Like
Mhm.
the fiction made more sense.
Yep.
So then we moved on to us being angry at each other, like the tension between the two of us.
Yep.
Which then led to us being down by the waterfront.
Mm-hmm.
Which then you were like, I wanted to go off the handle, especially when I found out my dad was working with your dad,
Yeah.
because that is working outside of the shroud, outside of the veil.
Mm-hmm.
And then I drove away, and then to resolve it, I drove back around.
Yep.
And like, fine, I'll do it your guys' way, which was, I thought, a fun set of sequences.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Without breaking the party apart and with having that interesting little story arc inside of it.
Absolutely. Once again, if you haven't heard, which, we try to say it as much as we can because, it's important to us.
It is
We have a
important to us.
Patreon campaign.
We do.
And we would love it if you would patronize us. And yes, we know it sounds funny when we say that, but look it up. It's valid.
It's valid.
You can get a ton of really cool stuff
Yeah.
when you patronize us.
Get some extra podcasts, some behind the screen stuff from Phil, the after show of the Bamboo Lounge, stuff from the Children of the Shroud game, character sheets, Jerry's summaries of our games.
Yeah, there's a plethora of stuff in there.
Now let's move on to some roundtable discussions by starting with some questions.
Yes, we like the roundtable questions. Hey, look, how do you avoid the pitfalls of inter-character conflict?
Don't be a dick.
Rule number 1.
Thank Thanks, Will.
DBAD, baby.
Mhm.
Don't be a dick.
Good old Will Wheaton.
Yep.
Don't be a dick. I'm
The
sure somebody else.
Wheaton rule.
The Wheaton rule it is actually the Wheaton rule.
It is
isn't
actually the Wheaton rule.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be a dick.
dick.
Yep.
That's really like the crux of it all. We said a bunch of the stuff already, right?
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
talk to each other.
Yes, have a conversation.
Decide what you want the arc of this intercharacter conflict to be. Actually, I think it's really hard to, unless you're like really good friends with the people that you're playing with and you've done a bunch of this stuff,
Mhm.
it's hard to have these kind of intercharacter conflicts that don't get weird, or unless you're like very good at playing that way, that don't have meta conversations around them.
Mhm.
Like if you're just playing in that character level all the time, or that character foci, as we like to call it these days, it can be really hard to figure out if you're actually mad at the person or mad at the character.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. If you're playing a game with someone that you're not familiar with, and you decide you want to create some intercharacter conflict, or they create some intercharacter conflict with you, that is an even bigger reason to make sure you're looking at your safety tools, you're having meta conversation, so that you understand completely where you stand with that person. In a situation like the table we're sitting at right now, me, Chris, and Jerry, we could just bring something up on the fly, and we know pretty solidly what we're doing, and we're almost guaranteed to be like, yeah, this is all character. I'm not mad at Chris.
Mhm.
I'm not mad
Right.
at Jerry. Like, this is a character thing, and we're doing this for a reason. Hopefully it's fun. And if it's not fun, we're going to call each other on it. Like,
Yep.
hey, where are you going with this? Because I'm not feeling it, whatever.
Mhm.
But if it's somebody that you're not familiar with, tread lightly with it.
Yeah, tread lightly. And you can do all those things like you can just, before you do it, ask. Like,
Yeah.
are we cool with inter-party conflict or not? Because I'm pretty sure Ange is not cool with it as a player. Like if I was playing in a game with Ange and I said inter-party conflict, she'd be like, not really my thing. I only know that because I edit Dog with Advantage and I've heard them say that a bunch of times. I'm not even sure if Jared would be okay with it. I don't think that's the kind of games that the two of them like to play. They'll be on board with it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Sendu would probably be on board with it. As
Sure.
like run through the network of hosts on the show.
Yeah.
On the shows. I don't know. I've never played a game with Monica, so I have no idea. But yeah, like just ask, right? Like I would ask Monica before I did anything like that because I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's how you avoid some of those pitfalls. Asking a question helps a lot. Having safety tools on the table really does help a lot.
Yes.
Having pause and rewind from script change is some of my favorite things.
Yes, definitely.
Also, if your lines and veils involve inter-party conflict, then obviously you don't want inter-party conflict in your game.
Right.
That's an important thing from session 0. If you establish that right out of the gate, then you know where you're not going.
So how do we make good inter-character conflicts, Jerry?
Well, I think first of all, always look to start with what's going to be fun for everybody involved. That should always be your first question. Is this going to be fun for everybody involved? After that, then look at a way to make it part of what's happening in the game in a way that's not going to undo something somebody else is doing in the game. For example, Tam telling Alpha, I don't think it's a good idea for you to build that protostar, didn't actually stop us from doing something. It said, okay, is there either a better way to do this, or should we be talking about the good and bad of it? Now, in character, yes, he was saying to Alpha, don't do that. But as a player, he was saying, what are we thinking about this? And is this a good idea from an ethical and moral standpoint? And that led to discussion. But at no point did he actually look over at Bob and say, yeah, don't do that. And that makes that's really, I think, the best way to start with a good intercharacter conflict.
You know, we almost had that happen in our D&D game on Friday when one of the characters was like, don't go do that. And then somebody said, I don't think you understand how this works. And I almost had to stop the game until you guys worked it out yourselves.
That was me.
I remember.
Yeah, and in retrospect, I probably could have handled it a little better.
We were playing with somebody at the table that probably doesn't know some of the techniques that we're talking about. We probably should have stopped the game to like being like, all right, if this is a problem, let's talk about it and see what the story is.
Mm-hmm.
I could have stopped it too. I was watching it, but I was wanting to see if you guys could work it out yourselves because I'm that kind of person.
And I feel like we came to a pretty quick solution to it.
I guess I could talk about this now. How to make good inter-character conflicts.
Mhm.
Look, I'm a big believer in find a conflict that is personal but not detrimental to the advancement of the story. For instance, with Alfaram's shield generator, it wasn't really stopping us from advancing the story because there was nothing that we really needed it for.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured eventually we would get it too because it seemed like a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
Then I try to find reasons to be at odds with other party members, but not enough to make you not want to keep doing whatever your game is about. Once again, the thing with that, it wasn't stopping us from doing the things that we were doing, going around the galaxy, solving problems, right? We were still being super scientists. And the entire time I was questioning Alpha about those things, I was always asking, like, yeah, what's your plan? What's your plan?
Mhm.
What's your
Yeah.
plan?
Yep.
Because I was actually just trying to prompt him to, like,
Yeah.
do the thing
And I was,
in a
you know,
safe way.
I was firing back some of it.
you
Yeah.
were, yeah.
and yeah.
Then we get to make jokes like, what, that's like 11% of a plan.
Yeah.
It's barely even a thought. Because we like to be referential
Yes.
at our game table. And then I like the idea, like, if you're okay with it, to let one character have leverage over another character. Now, this is the high stakes play for a high reward. If you just want to keep safe and not like put your game at risk in some way, shape, and or form, or you don't have a bunch of good tools and play culture at your table, probably don't do this. But if you're the one that has the leverage, remember to play it only to the point where it's tense and that you can feel it going on, like in the background. Like there's always this thing that's there. And then only bring that out when it's time to have a real turning point in your game.
Yeah.
Like, that's the high stakes play. And there's a big reward for doing it, but it can crash and burn if you aren't all on the same page.
Yep. That's fair.
So, what are some good examples of intercharacter conflicts that can add to games, even though we've talked about 12 of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as Jerry started to mention, we've had some moments in our Legacy of the Archmage D&D game where our cleric, Carrie, was very upset with my sorcerer, Candor, because he kept putting his life in danger way too many times.
Yeah, you did.
And she has to turn around and heal me back up. And it was, like, like consternation and frustration.
And it's all out of love.
Yes.
I just don't want to see you die.
Yeah, that's fair, But I kept doing the thing.
You did keep doing the thing.
And honestly, it created some very interesting things in gameplay in a lot of different spaces because the people of my family's kingdom started calling me Candor the Unkillable.
They did.
And I was like, oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
I can't keep going like this if people are going to think I can't die.
I think you were sitting at two failed death saves 2 or 3 times in that game during that story arc.
During that story arc, twice for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Jerry?
I had several games when I was running V&V in college where we had players whose characters, because superhero games tend to be very emotional with crossing over character stories, that got involved in situations where it took a bit for the players to learn how to do intercharacter conflicts, where you had one character who was obsessed with acquiring something, and in one case they came across a bunch of juvenile supervillains, went back and forth with, should we take them in? Should we turn them in? Do we want to be responsible for these supervillains? Should we just adopt the whole group? Should we send them to supervillain juvie prison? And that became almost an entire session of the players discussing the pros and cons of the whole thing. For a while, I had 4 players. They were evenly divided 2 and 2. Eventually, they sat down and talked. They had to sit down and talk about, what are we going to do? How is it going to change the campaign if all of a sudden we're responsible for training a bunch of juveniles and being responsible for the crimes they've already committed and any crimes they might commit once they're under our care? Eventually, the most vocal member of the party said, I think that's going to be the best story we're going to tell. Like, that makes things more interesting, and it'll make things more difficult for Jerry, so let's do it. And which is sometimes my players' motivation.
That's the wrong answer, by the way.
It is, but...
Now, by the way, of course, before I even introduced these characters, I already had the idea of what to do with them if the party adopted them. That's why. But it was just, they suddenly realized that this was an opportunity. And that's the thing that can happen with intercharacter conflicts, is they went from being on opposing sides of an argument to looking at what are the opportunities that this situation can bring to the game. It ended up changing the entire scope of the game for them. It was a character arc I was planning on anyway if they took it, but I used to run much more open, sandboxy type things. So a lot of stuff I would drop in, they would just ignore and walk away from. This was one that they latched onto and became a linchpin for the end game for the campaign. So it worked really well. Chris?
I already talked about all of mine. Like, the best ones that I've had are definitely with Alpha and with Gree and with now with Gunny. Like, these are the kind of stories that I've been dying to tell in role-playing games for years. And it's harder to do it from behind the screen. And I've done it from behind the screen. There was a really good one, though, in a game that I ran a long time ago, where the whole party was like very disparate in their goals and ideals and how they wanted to function. And I'll tell you, man, it was interesting to watch these things be side things, because what I did was I put so much pressure on them from the main plot that they never had time to really like deal with some of this stuff. So it would come out little bits at a time. And as long as I kept putting pressure on them, nothing ever like fully burned itself out. But I would not recommend that being the way to do it today. That was a high risk, high reward move by me. And I did have a character that, like an NPC that they had kind of adopted to their group. Well, somebody hired him, then somebody different started a relationship with that character, and they were two of the opposing people. So having a character that can play kind of peacemaker between those as a game master helped a lot with keeping the peace in that game. There was also the point where somebody picked up somebody's Holy Avenger and burned their hand really bad because they were evil.
Surprise.
Yeah, I know, right? They had a golden hand, then it was blackened.
Oh dear.
Well, you shouldn't pick up a Holy Avenger when it's not yours.
Also true.
Especially if you're evil.
I don't know if that's a good example of inter-character conflict. That's an example of how you can keep one going, and two techniques to do it, which is if you put enough pressure on them, they never really have a chance to deal with some of that stuff, even if they're all disparately not kind of wanting to work together. You are allies of convenience at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the one where you have a peacemaker that is in there to help smooth things over between the characters. I do not recommend either of those ones these days, but you can do them. They work. They do work. I guess that's it, right? That's our discussion of making good inter-character conflicts in your tabletop role-playing games.
Yeah. We hope all this will help you add more dramatic role-playing to your games.
Yeah.
All right, with that, you should back our Patreon. And if you don't want to back our Patreon, you should just tell people about us. Please do so. Just throw out a message into the void of social media that is a train wreck these days, saying, do you like gaming podcast and gaming advice podcast? You should listen to Misdirected Mark and every other podcast on the Misdirected Mark Network. Bob, why don't you tell me about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network?
I would love to. We've got a show called Bonus Experience. This one's a hoot. Monica and her friends explore gameplay and design through the lens of diversity, while also sharing some of the dumbest humor gaming has to offer. Good times. It's a hoot.
Good times.
Good times.
Thank you for joining us for Misdirected Mark Plays. Now let's do some Patreon shoutouts to thank those wonderful patrons who support our show. Let's start with the Royal Court. Ty Brunty, also known as Lord Timeauger, Lars Henrik Evjan, the Lord Out of Time, Jim, the Royal Merchant Emeritus, Chromatic Chameleon, the Queen's Spy Mistress, J.T. Evans, the Queen's Librarian, Schmitty, the Keeper of the Labyrinth, Andrew Dacey, the Warden of Whiskies, Andy Olson, the Duke of Dice, John Carney, the Court Necromancer, and yes, he is evil, Craig, the Lord of One Name, Tiberius Starcrash Smith, the Baron of Britannia, and Kevin Lovecraft, the Royal Beard. Let's hit some other patrons out there now. Thank you so much for being our patrons. Chris Constantine, Miko Froelich, Eric Simon, Not That Billy Mitchell, Fiona, Huxley, Kathleen Halperin, Christopher Gamelk, Michael Beck Esperum, Joseph Knoll, Carlos, Heptalema, Michael Draper, Alice Kira, Jim Fitzpatrick, Brantley Harris, Steve Radabaugh, Rory McLeod, Ninjabi, Joseph Peralta, Brian Kurtz, My Brett, Chris Steele, Jared Rasher, Eileen Barnes, and Brandon Barnes.
If you'd like more content like this, you can find it on our website at misdirectedmark.com. Want some more? Go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/MMP. There's a bunch of bonus episodes. There's our after show, the Bamboo Lounge podcast, our MM Plays game stuff like our setting for this game, The Children of the Shroud. My game development notes for the Lamplighter system are on there. Our character sheets are on there. Our mod stuff is on there. All sorts of stuff is on there. And you get access to our Slack room. And that's important because that's the best way to get a hold of us. But if you don't want to get a hold of us that way, you can reach us using email, mmp@misdirectedmark.com. You can also use Twitter. The best place is @misdirectedmark. Now, we have some other shows on this network. We have Pandas Talking Games, the Gnome Cast, Bonus Experience, and Thaka with Advantage. Now, if that's still not enough, we have some friends who make podcasts. There's the Tabletop Bellhop, your board game concierge, the Knights of the Night, who make excellent APs, and Mastering Dungeons with Sean Merwin and Teos Abadia. They're still doing their 5th edition thing, and you can catch them on the podcasts or on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, How to RPG is by Sean P. Kelly of Gaming MBS. It's one of my favorite things going on the internet on YouTube right now, and if you want a variety of games to talk about, go check it out over there. He is live on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern. Well, with that, this has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop. We out.